Welcome to the Griswold Method podcast. If you've been watching, listening, wherever you are in the world, we've been able to see downloads happening all over, lots of different places. Been fun to be able to connect with some of you. Today, I have a special guest, and I want to bring this guest in front of you because she is somebody that helped make me who I am. I'm not probably Dr. Matt Griswold unless this lady takes decent notes. I'm not Dr. Matt Griswold unless she connected with me. And as you can already see from the smile, or if you could probably hear from the giggles, she's just a bundle of energy that anywhere she is, even on a virtual, she can bring that energy to you. So today, what I'd like to do is introduce Dr. DANIELLE Jones. And so Dr. Jones is all over the place. She's doing all kinds of things. And I love that because that's the people that resonate with me. They're trying to affect so many people while they have this time on this planet. And I love that. And that's where she works from. She's going to talk more about what she does. She's got books out. She's got journals. There is super cool stuff. And so we're going to dive into that today. So Danielle, first of all, thanks for taking the time we do these on Fridays. So thank you for taking the time on a Friday to spend a little time with me and have a conversation. Danielle and I went to school together. I won't post this in the comments, but I have a few pictures of her taking naps during class, and still she made better grades than me. We've known each other for over a decade, and I know her family. I've met her parents. And so I can truly say that with the depths of my heart, this is not just an acquaintance that I've invited on my podcast, but somebody that I've known for a very long time. And I think I know the fabric of who she is. And so if you're interested in what I'm interested in, then you're going to love this episode. Danielle, thanks again for being on.
No, thank you for having me. I don't even know if I can even say anything anymore. Your intro was like, hey, I don't have anything else to say. Thank you. I appreciate you. I am grateful. I feel the same about you. So maybe I should just talk about you.
No, we're here to talk about you. Hey, so I'm super interested in, and as we were getting ready to prepare for the podcast, I'm interested in the journal. I knew that always that you kind of had that. You have a zeal for life. You have always had that. I think your parents have a zeal for life. They've had that too. And I don't know if that was passed down or you picked it up or what that. I've never met your siblings, your sister, I think. Yeah. And so I'm sure she has it too. But to me, like taking that zeal and putting it in a book form and then delivering that to somebody, that's not just giving a journal out for somebody to help. That's opening yourself up and kind of just saying, hey, here I am. And this is me. Will you tell me more about your journal?
Yeah. So I had surgery in February. And before I had surgery, I have a life coach, and I was talking to her, and she was like, when you are in the bed doing nothing, so much is going to come to you. And so it was on my list of things to do. But literally one day, and I'm telling you, it took me 3 hours total to do it, which was like mind blowing to me. But I was just like, okay, God, what do I need to get out of this time? And what can I give and share to people as well? And one of the biggest things that I do coach people on is mindfulness and gratitude. So the journal is a gratitude and affirmation journal, but it also has some of those components of mindfulness. So there's an affirmation first, and then you will jot down like what you got from that affirmation, but also what are your plans in the evening? Like, what are your plans from that for the next day? Or what did you get from the day after like experiencing that? Because everything we say shifts our life, whether we know that or not. So paying attention to what you're saying throughout the day and how you feel and all those things. So that was the whole purpose in it, like just getting people back to focusing on their being and their human body and like all the senses instead of it just being on the rat race.
Sure. I love the concept. Some of my coaches have said before, mirror, mirror, right? So look, mirror, mirror on the wall. And to me, the mirror on the wall is the mindfulness part, right? Like, it's like if you are eating right, doing right, exercising, doing all the things, looking at yourself when you get out of the shower in the mirror is easy. But if you're not, it's hard. And so I love the idea of being able to put, hey, I'm going to be mindful. And then from that mindfulness, I'm going to create gratitudes. And then at the end of the day, being able to reflect back to the gratitudes that you had and being mindful about that. That's kind of how you laid that out, it sounds like.
Yeah,
I love that.
That is correct.
I love that concept of, that's not easy. It's not easy to be self-reflective. And nobody wants to do that. So I think having prompting questions and prompting lead-ins is exactly what's needed. It's definitely not easy for me. And I would say that probably not for most males who think that they're macho. And that's kind of
for sure.
I fit in that.
For sure. So it's cute, but I made it not like too prissy so that men would want it as well. And actually one of my guy friends was the first person to purchase one. And he was just like, oh, this is good. So
I love that. I love that. You know what? The other part about it is that sometimes we set goals, and I'm a lofty goal setter. My spouse, I'm the dreamer, and she has the tether. So there's nothing wrong with saying that I was the hot air balloon and that I would go off into the atmosphere if it wasn't for my wife, Claire. She's the ropes, right? She keeps me tied to the earth because, So it's good, I think, to be able to say that 15 days, that's doable, and you can make a trajectory change in that 15 days. Is that why you chose the 15 days, or was there thought process behind that? Tell me about that.
When I wrote it, I didn't think a whole lot about it. Most things I saw some 5 days, I saw 30 days. I just knew that a lot of times if people start with small steps, they're better with keeping at it. So even at the end, I put a part that says like, hey, now you've gone through the 15 days, make it 30 and start again. If or start with your own affirmations now, since you know what that should be.
Sure.
So there's an opening for that, but I just know if somebody can dedicate at least 2 weeks to that, they will see a change.
So I don't know if I love that. The two things that I heard there that I really liked was the, how do I put this correctly? The divine download that you got, right? So you said, I wrote it in 3 hours. Well, I think that's a divine
exact
download.
Words. I'm talking total 3 hours. Like I was like, the first day it was like, okay, these are the affirmations that people need. And I like typed them. And then the next day I did that like in an hour. The next day was like, it's got to be pretty. So I took an hour to do that. And then I took an hour to edit the next day, because I was like, don't look at it. I sent it to my mom because she's huge on English and editing, so I was like, Mom, you got to read this. And then I sent it to a few people that I knew. And so they were like, yeah, this is good. This is good. And then I just went to publishing. So
I love that. It's like, hey, execute.
Yes.
And I think sometimes, do you feel like so Danielle and I are both chiropractors. Chiropractic is a very physical job. It's a very, very physically demanding job. I have to exercise specifically to be able to see the patient volume that I see. And so Danielle, in this midst of having a surgery, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like that was a blessing in disguise there that it created from that surgical procedure, that there was a birth that came from that?
Oh, yes, for sure. So much. Like, there are a lot of desires I had too, like my clothing company. I had it before and I knew I wanted to refine it. So I started working on my ideas of that while I was like down, or not down, but, and then my consulting company, I was like, I have to broaden it because there are other needs. And there are a lot of people I know that, have different specialties and are like mine. So I felt like during that time, it was definitely a godsend, because not just from, hey, taking a break from that physical load, which all those are components, when you remove one, you get to focus on the other, right? So me not going to the office every day and me not being focused on everybody else's problems and issues allowed me to really just focus in on my goals, my dreams, my desires. So yeah, it was definitely a godsend. And I'm still riding the wave. So
I love healing in more than one way. Like if you can figure out and strategize how you can heal your body and heal your mind and maybe your heart, if you can heal in more than one way. And I don't know, that's maybe an efficiency thing. I've kind of got I love that stuff. And I look for how can we be more efficient? And how can we operate better? But I love that you were healing in more than one way. The other thing that I caught that I think was important when we discussed before the podcast was the coaching and the consulting side of what you're doing. And that just makes a logical sense for me to hear you coaching and consulting, because I mean, there's been times in the conversations over the past decade that even, I guess longer, I guess 15 years. Jeez.
Yeah, I know. Think about that.
I thought it was a decade. I guess
It's
15
okay.
years. Sorry, I'm embarrassed.
No,
So
you're.
we're older. In the
But we
past
look
15
great.
natural eating and chiropractic care.
Yes.
But the truth is that even 15 years ago, there were times when I was downtrodden and things had happened in my life that I had sought you out 15 years ago. And so I just think it's a natural progression to hear that you're consulting and coaching and really pouring into people. What are the people that you like to, what are your favorite ideal client? What do you like to work with when you're doing that stuff?
So obviously the ideal client is one that actually wants to change. So people always say they want change, but are you willing to put forth the work too? Because there's a whole, I had one person ever in the 5 years that I actually did not continue with because it was like he wanted me to do the work. And it's like, no, I'm pouring into you so you can do it. So, people with that grit and tenacity that are willing to, like I said, execute, they're hungry. Yeah. They have pure intentions. It's not just let me make some money. It's really how many people I can help in my community. And that's what it's all about. So we have to resonate on that spiritual level. I know a lot of times people are like, take that out of business and do that. But no, I'm in a place where I know that is very important. And I have met people that are, not genuine in their intentions. And I personally I don't live a life of, I live my life with pure intention. So in everything I do, it's like, where's my heart with this? How does my gut feel with this? Like everything, and then also the logical part of it. What sense does this make for me? So, like I said, people that are really, really just open to receive and ready to help their community more.
And I think that's the part, and we discussed before we hit play on the podcast about heart space and how in our careers, it's been easy to starting from scratch to get to a place to where we were, you go and you grow and then you make a little money and then you go, oh my gosh, I don't like this job anymore. And then you go, wait a second, that's because I fell out of love with it. And I kind of hear that being something that you are able to bring to your clients is being able to bring some passion and heart back to their specific career. It doesn't have to be chiropractic, but just in general. Back to why did you fall in love with this? Because at the end of the day, and I'm in firm agreement, at the end of the day, if my spirit man and my physical man are way disconjointed, I've lived that life too. It is uncomfortable and it is clunky, but if I can align them, and I don't mean to tie that back into a spinal alignment, but it's just kind of how I think. If I can align them, it sounds like that's what you're good at. And I love that the concept of that is you truly are aligning that person again. And I love that, honestly, more than that concept. Yeah, that's good. I'm going to let that one sit for a second. Let that one marinate, because that's what you're doing. You're aligning their lives. It's a different method. It may not be the manual adjustment, but it is an adjustment nonetheless. And how many years has somebody said, can you give this child an attitude adjustment? It's like, well, actually, let's jump on a Zoom.
We can. We can.
And I love that. That's awesome. That's cool. And so you've been doing so much stuff. You're doing the consulting thing and you've got the clothing line. And I know you started some back before, but now you just did a revamp and a refinish on that clothing line. Tell me about, are you going to make me some clothes? What's the...
Oh, for sure. You have nice style anyways. I like this. I'm a minimalist anyways, most of the time when it comes to fashion. So I love your shirt.
All black, just keep it easy.
That's what I did too. I was like, hey. So right now, a lot of it's printed tees, but they're printed tees with messages, right? So even the last one I released was chiropractic based. So the front says chiropractic and on the back, I put not magic. How many times have you given somebody an adjustment and they're like, oh my God, that was magic. And you're like, no, there's a lot of science behind what I do. It's art and science, So it's just all of it has a message. My main one is non-GMO bro. And that's really not just, we shouldn't eat, GMOs, but it's more so like I'm authentic. Yeah. Right. So like, and that's how we should be walking in our authenticity every day. So
I love that.
Most things. Yeah. The main other one that sells the most is Purpose Provides. So, and that just really came to me when I woke up and was like, Purpose Provides. That's the next shirt, because it does. And it's not just a financial thing, right? Like it provides gratification in your, like just waking up and being excited to start your day. If you're, as my coach Dave says, your why, your how, and your now, your why, your what, your how, and your now. But that just really lights your fire, so just being able to identify that. And like a lot of times people say, find your purpose. And I'm like, it's in you. It's that thing that is like screaming at you all the time that sometimes people have silenced because people told them they couldn't do things. Even sometimes that's their parents. So a lot of things are literally like deep rooted. So that shirt causes people to think more. So that's what it is now. And then it's moving into more of a couture. Well, I'm going to have separate lines, but yeah.
It's what I love is that you sifted it all the way down. Just a couple of words. Because that's the hard part, especially if you're like me and you have the gift of gab and you like caffeine. Is just like, how do you get it down to a couple of words? And then like, because my T-shirt would be like, oh, hold on, you got to spin around. And read it. So like, I love the thought process into it that maybe that's a design. You can have it if you'd like to use that design idea. But maybe that's
I will.
I just love getting it down to 2 words. And who she's talking about, if you just heard her say her coach Dave, is Dave Meltzer. And Dave Meltzer is the guy that's lost, I forget how many hundreds of millions, and then gained it all back. And I know that you're coaching with him because when you just said that, you sounded like him. Your voice changed just a little bit like him. And so I knew this is authentic. This is really who she is. And she's able to say that. I love that. That's my favorite. Danielle, I think that the question that I would have, and this would be one of my final questions as we start to talk about, and I also will talk about where I want to push what you're doing. But the question that I have at the end of the bottom of it and the very bottom of the barrel is what is the thing, right? And so in some groups, they call it the top 5%. I like the bottom 5% because the bottom 5% is where all the sediment goes to. And I think that's where the substance is. The top 5%, that's all the good stuff. That's the cream, right? Like, let's get down to the sediment, right? So what is that? What is the sediment that comes along with, and what's the underlying thing that says, I am in this 80-year lifespan that we're expected to live, I'm going to make a difference in all these people's lives? Because if you just were listening to the podcast, you heard her say 3 different ways of that, and I haven't listed off the bakery yet, 3 different ways that she's helping and affecting people's lives. 1 second here, sir. 3 different ways she's helping and affecting people's lives. And so I want to know for a fact how to, and what is your why and what's going on there?
Okay. This is a good one. So my why is, since I was a kid, I dedicated my life to just living full, right? So myself, and this is some of, I guess, environment. I watched some of the women in my life not do all the things that they wanted to do or had a desire to do. And I saw some people literally not even follow their purposes, right? So for me, I was like, I want to live a life without regret and use every gift that God gave me before I leave the planet. And that is what drives me. It's like, let me please God with everything that I do. That's my why every day. So for me, and I get joy out of that too, because it's like my gifts are things that are not your gifts, right? Yeah. And they just poke at you. And it's like, you going to use this or not, Yeah. And I'd rather use it than lose it. Yeah. So I'm the one that got the 10, so I'm going to have to multiply them, Sure. Can't bury them.
Sure.
So that's my why, genuinely.
To whom much is given, much is expected.
Yes. And every day I am reminded. Yep.
My dad used to say that, and I was in therapy recently, and he said it, and I was like, "Wow, you're so in tune to me." And he was like, "It was in the Bible, man." I was like, "Oh, Jesus!"
Right.
I didn't know.
Hey.
I didn't know Jesus said that. My dad said that the whole time.
You were built for it, though. So he knew.
I love. Here's the thing, though. If you just heard the podcast and you got to get the measurement of what the quality of the person is, I think that she just showed exactly who she is and the integrity that she lives with, and that shines through. And so as I round this out and really round out bringing on fantastic humans to the podcast, because it's important for me that it's not about Matt Griswold, but about connecting others that can help others, because that's exactly what she just said. She's given an opportunity to be able to help others. She was given the 10, and it's her responsibility to multiply it. I don't think that she was just referencing the Bible there. I think what she was saying there was that she's been given this time on this planet, 10 fingers and this beautiful face and a gift to be able to, and brain, and to be able to help others with those things. And she's making a ripple in her community. And we know how ripples go. Ripple starts in China. It can make a tsunami, but it has to start with a ripple, right on. And so like that power and that honesty and that integrity is just that ripple of the wave that's going to, that is for her, at least in her life, making ripples in other people's families and their lives. And so at the end of it, I had to answer a question the other day at one of the meetings that I was in, and they said, "What do you want written on your gravestone?" She says, "I just want to affect others' lives and make sure that that impact was there." And that's what she just said, and she didn't even know that she said it. And so I just wanted to highlight what she brought to the surface. And I wanted you to hear it too, Danielle, because I wanted you to know that the essence of you is you as you show up as you. And I think that if you were listening to what she just discussed and how she discussed it, then that's what you learned about her. And so if you're interested in consulting, coaching with Danielle, there'll be a link in the bottom. But I'll tell you what, I know that she would be great, and I'm sure that she would do some consultation calls and be able to set that up if you were on this. And then, but the second thing, here's the easy part. Even if you don't want to yet get on a consultation call, there'll be a link to the Amazon book. I'm going to stick it up in the comments here. We'll drop that on the episode here. And my video guy is nodding his head. He'll be able to do some cool stuff and bring it in, make it look really neat. That's not me. So don't ever think that I'm that good at that stuff. But what I want, if you're hearing this, at least do yourself a favor and grab 15 days. Grab 15 days of a journal that's going to help you create mindfulness, looking at yourself in the mirror. And I don't mean that figuratively. I do mean that, but I don't mean it by looking at yourself in the mirror, looking at yourself from the inside person in the mirror, and then being able to create a generation of gratitude. And it sounds like that's exactly what Danielle's been able to build. And the important statement that goes along with that is that it's 15 freaking days.
Right.
Like there are fasts that are longer than that, right? Like I've never done one, but there are fasts that are longer than that. You could do that without food. And if you could just give yourself a little bit of time, because here's where we are in the time that we're shooting this. And even if you see this after the time, we're about July-ish. Today is halftime. I received a message this morning from one of my coaches that says, "Happy halftime. We're going to go in, enjoy the break, drink Gatorade, rest your legs," just like you used to do in the locker room, because here comes the second half of the year. And I think that the second half of the year would be fantastic. Started off with 15 days of gratitude and affirmations, 15 days that you're pouring into yourself based on stuff that God divinely gave to Danielle for her to type it up and make it nice and be able to give back to you. I love her to death, but I don't think that in 3 hours she created that because it was under her own accord. I call that, just like I said in the episode, it was a divine download. And I love that. I've never heard that. Hopefully I can coin that later.
No, that was, when you said it, I was like, how does he know? How does he know?
I had him.
Exactly.
I didn't act on him as well. That's a divine download. And I hope that blesses you. If you're listening to this podcast, give yourself a chance. Give yourself a couple weeks. And I bet you after a couple weeks, the research shows this, and I'll drop you with this. The research shows that if you were doing I am affirmations, they did a research study that just recently was published that had two groups. And the people that were doing I am affirmations had three things that happened more often. They exercised more often. They were able to get up and move their body more often. They were overall healthy. And then they had a better outlook on the future. I'm not seeing the negatives and talking to yourself and saying, I am worth it. And that's what she's telling you to do. And so thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate the listens, the downloads, the comments. We're going to leave Danielle's information in the links below. Connect with her. She's fantastic. And even if you're just having a rainy day, you can tell that she's a sunny person. And so give her a shout and then connect with her and be able to see what she can do for you in your life. And thank you for being on, Danielle.
No, thank you for having me. So happy to be a part of this.